Hey, what's going on, good people? It's Gardner Douglas, your Oyster Ninja. I'm here today with the one and only Takera Gholson. Now, look, you might not know her by her name, but you may know her by her food blog, which is Flights and Food. It's ringing bells now, right? It's coming together. World renowned. I don't know how you say that phrase, but she's known all over in the food community doing this and doing that. And ladies and gentlemen, Flights and Food, Takera Gholson.
Hi.
So first of all, did I say your last name right? First of all.
Yes, the last name was right, but the full name of the blog is Flights and Foods. So it's a S on flights and a S on food.
Hold on. Come on. It's the Eastern Shore twang. We don't say S's, or if we do, it rolls all in together. No, it's cool. I apologize, Mr. Takera. I am so sorry. Thank you for coming out today and taking time out of your COVID work day, your work schedule.
You're welcome.
Just tell us a little bit, first of all, about Flights and Foods. Flights and Foods.
Well, Flights and Foods is just a blog. It's about food and travel. I mostly do food around the DC area. So I do restaurants, small businesses, which could be pop-ups as well. Personal chefs. I've done some interviews with those folks as well. And then on the flight side, it has to do with travel. So I tend to travel outside of the country multiple times a year, try to do 3 or 4 times a year international trips. And since we're based in the US, I like to do somewhere around, like, I can't really even count it. Like, I like to do long weekends just outside of the DC area, and that gives me an opportunity to try foods all over. So my aim is to really share food and culture through my photography, which is what I share on my blog.
Nice. Well said, Ms. Takera. Well said.
Thank you.
So what got you into like food and travel, the blogging? Like, what got you into it? Like, what was the draw?
Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, I thought I was going to do YouTube. So let's start there. So we were watching a lot of YouTube, I think maybe earlier in the year, watching a lot of YouTube, watching these people travel and eat. And so I thought I was going to do that. Like, we travel all the time anyway. We love it. We just have a passion for it, my husband and myself. So once we knew, okay, we travel, we were already doing it anyway, then we could start documenting our travels on YouTube, just like these other YouTubers. After editing some YouTube videos, I just like pulled back a little bit. It was fun documenting, because the thing was, like, when you travel a lot and you speak about travel, people tend to ask you, like, how was this? How was that? Where did you go? I'm going to go next year. Where should I go? So the blog was really a place to document those things, to have a website to go along with the YouTube videos that we thought we were going to do also. But as I got into YouTube, it took a lot of time, and I said, okay, I need to pay my social media some attention as well. And then when I got into figuring it out, because I didn't have Instagram really, I had a personal one, but I didn't really use it. But so when I started getting into Instagram on the business side, I was like, wow, there are other people that do what I do and like food and travel as well. There was this whole community. So I got really into it, and I started paying attention to my Instagram and really started building a following. And that's kind of where I am focused now, more on Instagram. And I definitely still write on the blog. I have a YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Flights and Foods across all social media if you want to follow me. But I definitely am heavy on Instagram right now.
Nice, that's great. So you talked about just finding that community and, other people who were doing things like you. How first of all, I guess the question is the market saturated, and how do you deal with that?
Yeah, it really is. Like, even on YouTube, I would say travel vloggers, that industry is saturated as well, but anybody can start. You can still do it. I wouldn't discourage anybody from doing it because everybody is an individual and you can stand out just by being yourself. So you can always find an audience, you can always find a community, you can always find your people out there. So anybody can do it and anybody should do it if they want to do it, but it is very saturated. Again, it could be competitive in some cities, especially where food bloggers are concerned. But I would not discourage anybody from getting into it if that's what they had a passion for doing.
So how have you set yourself apart, and how do you find your market?
So for me, I think I'm different. Now, let me maybe separate it a little bit. There are food bloggers, and when you say food bloggers, some folks could just do what I do, which is visit restaurant, do restaurant reviews, highlight different restaurants, small businesses, things like that. And then there's also food bloggers who create recipes, recipes creators. Some of those people even have their own cookbooks, and they also call themselves food bloggers. So there's kind of two categories of food bloggers. And the category I fall into, I tend to try to separate myself with my photography. And people now have iPhones or Galaxies or Pixels, like all different kind of phones now that take these fantastic photos. I use a camera. I use a professional Canon camera with a removable lens, and I definitely do a lot of education around photography as well to make my photos better. When I first started on Instagram, I saw other people who were doing what I was doing, and I loved what they had on their page, and I didn't like what I had on my page. So I just wanted to grow and get better, and that really drove me to increase my education and increase my skill level. And I think that's how I separate myself from other food bloggers. And I think people can show their creativity through their photography as well, whether you're using a phone or whether you're using a camera with a removable lens. You can definitely separate yourself that way, just through the pictures you take, your eye, and your creativity, and even your styling. Even though you're not making the food or making the recipes, you can style the food yourself, and that can set you apart as well.
So I know in particular, like especially with like YouTube videos, like even though like you said, the market is very saturated, but a lot of YouTubers, what they do is they make what transitions and stuff that sets them apart from the other YouTubers. So like as
Right.
far as just the photography and social media, how do you think? Well, yeah, how do you think you set yourself apart? Like, do you have, or not how, but do you have
Mm-hmm.
do you have
Like a
something that sets you?
signature.
Yeah, like yeah, exactly, like a
Right.
signature. Yeah.
For me, my photos are very bright, not the light and airy. Some people could have light and airy photos, which could be like a little more washed out. They might turn down the saturation. My photos are very bright, vibrant. So I tend to turn up the vibrancy, take out some of the shadows, and heighten the exposure just a little bit to where I like it. And then some people could do dark and moody photography. And so for me, my signature is more of a vibrant look.
Nice. I like that. I like that. So what tips would you give a new photographer or blogger like coming in just on how to take a picture for social media?
Sure. Like off top, I would say for anybody getting into photography and any food bloggers, the advice is kind of the same. Lighting, like really pay attention to your lighting, and that can improve your photography 100% from where you are if you haven't really learned a lot about lighting. Um, Also, another good thing to pay attention to is just kind of the angles that you take photos at. People want to see food photos, especially at natural angles. The way that you would eat a piece of food. Like if you would eat a hamburger, maybe people want to see it handheld because that's how they would naturally eat it. Taking a photo of a hamburger from the top down might not be ideal for that. But if you have a whole table full of food, you might want to do a top down shot because that would be more appealing and might make someone stop at your photo. And then from there, they'll stop at your photo and then they'll go to your profile and then they'll follow you. But I would say step number one and tip number one is to really just pay attention to lighting. And natural light is the best, but if not, Amazon has some great handheld lights. I have one here. It's a really small light. It's really essential if you're in food photography, if you're taking photos inside restaurants who can have tungsten light, which is kind of a yellowish orangey color, and it can change the look of your photography and your food. So you want to pay attention to that, and maybe you want to get an LED. I have a small aperture light here, and you can find it on Amazon.
Fancy, fancy. So that was the first step. The first step is, I guess actually the first step is going to the restaurant. Second step is taking that right picture. And well, let's back up a little bit. So how do you find like that perfect restaurant or the trending restaurant? Or do you look for something that's like hidden?
I don't. I might hit some trends, but I'm gonna go for food. Like if I hear about something that tastes good from friends or family, I'm gonna go try it out for myself. And I'm gonna read reviews. I do a lot of reading reviews before I go to restaurants. And honestly, you really have to read through reviews because some people could not review a place accurately. They could be reviewing it based on service they received or other minute things about the restaurant. So you really want to read reviews, and then I just go try them for myself. Even if there are bad reviews, and especially if a place is new, I'm going to try it for myself. I don't let that discourage me from trying a place. So a good place to look is Yelp. And there are a lot of other review apps as well. I tend to look on Google reviews also. And then Instagram is a good resource to find new restaurants or restaurants that you might want to try. So I don't necessarily go for restaurants that are trending, but I try to support new restaurants, small and local restaurants. And then also just businesses of color, Black businesses are ones that I'm definitely going to support. And I'm definitely going to at least give it a try or two or three, because at the end of the day, you don't want to always base your opinion on just one experience, because you don't know if the staff is new or not. You don't know if there's just a curve that the restaurant has to get over, especially for new restaurants. So I do encourage people to give new restaurants at least a second opportunity after a few months.
So you talked a little bit about, you got to read through those reviews because, like you said, all those facts. So what do you actually think goes into like writing a review or writing your post, for Instagram? Is it a difference?
Yeah, I think, well, what I put on if I post on Yelp, so I'm a Yelp Elite. And so Yelp Elite means you've been writing reviews on Yelp for a long time and people trust your opinion. And there's a management team at Yelp that trusts you, that you're giving a certain level of honest opinions. And so the opinion that I'm giving on Instagram might be maybe a shortened review, but it'll be an honest opinion. And that's what I try to give either on Instagram or on Yelp. Just my Yelp review might be a little bit longer, a little bit more detailed. But what really goes into it is telling people kind of like what the ambience is like, what the staff is like, and what the food is like, what the service is like. And then I always usually finish with whether or not I would go back again. And also highlighting if there's anything unusual about the price points. If it doesn't match up with the plate that I am receiving, then I also mention that as well.
That's cool. I didn't know was so much going into that. Woo. All right. I guess that's why
Yeah.
you're doing the blog and I'm over here doing YouTube or the podcast.
Yeah, I take notes. I use the notes app on my phone as soon as I hit the restaurant, I'm taking notes. I ask the servers their names. If I'm sitting at the bar, I ask the bartender their names as well. Just to take note, especially if I receive really good service, then I highlight that person's name in the review. I want to make sure that management knows that that person did a good job.
So with Twitter, like, do you incorporate Twitter? Because I know they got the limited, words, I guess.
Right. So actually, when I post on Instagram, I can set it to automatically post on Twitter. And on Twitter, it'll do a post, but it'll be a shortened post with a link to Instagram so people can read the longer review. I also use Twitter just to post photos, and then I'll just do a short blurb. And that can also lead people back to Instagram or my blog. And from my blog, I can also click a button to share things to Twitter as well.
Nice. So how have you been, I guess, growing your audience and growing your blog like during this pandemic?
Wow. So what's really helped me, I'm gonna say, is planning. Um, I am participating in a consistency challenge, which is really pretty much posting every day. Like everybody has a schedule, and if you have a business account on Instagram, you can view your insights, which tells you what your audience looks like, what time of day is best to post, and things like that kind of information. But doing a consistency challenge, I'm gonna post every day. So I've posted every day. For 30 days, like over 30 days now. And that has allowed me to grow my audience tremendously. I didn't expect it to grow that much, but it has grown a lot based off me posting every day. A trend that I noticed during the pandemic is that folks are kind of just really taking a break. Everybody's taking breaks now and then, so I noticed if I post on like a Monday, I might not get a lot of traction on that post until maybe a Wednesday, because people have taken a break from social media or from news or different things like that. And posting every day allows me to continue to catch people no matter when they're coming online. So that's something I noticed this month. But prior to doing the challenge, I was probably posting anywhere from 3 to 4 days a week, and then really kind of sticking with that. But during the pandemic, I think across all social media, engagement has slowed. And so posting every day has allowed me to kind of recoup some of that engagement that I missed earlier in the pandemic.
Wow. So how has because everything's been closed up, so has that affected
Right.
you like big?
That has not affected me largely because I take a ton of photos. It did, like, I'm not going to speak for everyone, but for me personally, the photography is really important to me. So when I visit a restaurant, I tend to take a ton of photos. And so because of that, I have a backlog of hundreds of photos, like maybe thousands of photos that I might not have used because at the time I didn't like the lighting, I didn't like the angle. But as I grow, I get better in terms of editing and how and my eye and how I view a photo. And so now maybe I'm able to better edit a photo. So now I want to use it, whereas 6 months ago, I might not have used that photo. But to your question, I have like a backlog of photos that I can use. And I also am just doing takeout, ordering food online, and I'm styling it at home. I bought a few things that would be helpful for photography at home. So I'm buying food out and then I'm bringing it home, I'm plating it, I'm styling it, and then I'm taking pictures. So it's still giving me content to use on my page.
Nice. Now that's what you call thinking forward. Sheesh. But that's great because it shows growth and you're getting better at your craft. So that's
Right.
awesome. So have like what apps or tutorials or other bloggers have kind of helped you out in this journey?
Oh, wow. So in blogging, one of the first people that was recommended to me actually by my accountant. So if you're also, let me hit on this, like if your blog is a business, you should get an accountant early on, and you should make sure your administrative matters are handled early on. So I have an accountant, and my accountant recommended Maddie James, and she's themaddiejames.com. And on Instagram, her handle is the Maddie James. And she actually gives free tips, free advice for bloggers and influencers. So she was really instrumental and kind of helping me get started and giving me the push that I needed to get where I am right now. And I also have a community of other Black food bloggers who I have a group chat with as well. There's a group of us. We really work off each other, bounce ideas off of each other, share knowledge with each other. And so that has really helped us grow. And since I'm in the DMV area, there is a group called the DMV Foodie Crew. And I joined that group really early on. And that really helped me a lot. Through that group, I get special invites to restaurants. And in that capacity, I'm able to come in sometimes privately when there are no customers there, and have an opportunity to speak with the owners and people that work in the restaurants every day, and get some kind of behind the scenes look into what goes into making the food and coming up with ideas and the recipes and things like that. So those are the people that have helped me. Now the apps, I use a lot of apps. I kind of give every app a chance that's recommended to me, but mostly I use the app called Later, and that helps me to plan out my content. You can plan in advance, and there's also a calendar you can preview, and then you can post your content in the calendar. You can move things around, and you can see how it visually looks before you even post it on Instagram. And there's also something similar called Preview, and there's also another one called Planoly. And so they all do something very similar. For stories on Instagram, and your stories on Instagram can also go for Facebook as well. So for stories, I use things like Insta Stories. That's another app that can animate just your still photography. You can make it animated, and that will make it more visually pleasing to people. So that has been really handy. Another app is Over or Unfold is another good app as well.
Whew, man. That's a lot.
Well, I try out every app and see if I like it, because honestly, they all have a pro section where you can pay if you want to use the app and get access to more features. So I give every app a try because it's free. So why not? If it's going to help me improve, then I'm going to give it a try.
Right. So I guess with all the apps and everything, that kind of helps balancing, because it seems like a lot. So I guess, does it ever seem like it's overwhelming?
Yeah, I mean, it depends though. If you are doing this for fun, then you can do it whenever you want, however you want, at your leisure. But my blog is a business. It's registered as an LLC, as a business. So I treat it as work. So it can get overwhelming, especially if you don't plan properly. So just like a business, I have to do taxes. So if I don't plan for that and prepare, then it's going to be overwhelming come the beginning of the year. Same thing goes for my content. Something else that helps me is I have a planner. So I have a planner like this that I write in. It has the months of the year in it, and there's several different ways that you can plan out your content just through a hard copy planner. I also utilize Google Docs. Google Suite has documents, forms, all kind of things in it. But I use Google Docs to write out my captions ahead of time. So that helps me out. And I find that when I plan things, I don't feel as overwhelmed when I plan in advance.
Okay, that's pretty cool. So far as I know like with YouTube, right, you got to do a lot of research about, titles and tagging and all of that good stuff. Is it the same
Mhm.
thing like when you're coming up with your blog title?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's actually almost exactly the same. If I'm sparingly, I post to YouTube. So when I post to YouTube and when I post to my blog, I do the exact same process. I try to go to Google, type in one word that I think I want to name the title, and see what comes up in the search. I'll see if other people seem like they're searching for that, or I put in one keyword and see what titles come up, and I'll try to come up with a similar title that will help me get more traffic. So it's a very similar process. And when you're writing a blog, you can also tag your post with keywords as well, and that can help people find it also. So it's very similar to what you would go through to post to YouTube.
Cool. I don't want to hold you up, but I do have a bunch of questions that,
Okay.
I find this interesting, just like, because I like YouTube and I want to be a blogger, but I don't have the patience and I don't know.
Well, I mean, it does take patience if you're talking about having a website and doing blog posts.
Yeah.
You really do have to plan for that. It can take time. During the day, I'm an auditor, so I write audit reports. I have to document things. I have to do interviews on a regular. I have to document my interviews. So I'm kind of used to writing, but honestly, just getting to publishing a blog, you have to go through certain steps that you should plan out. And once you plan out your process, it makes things a lot easier. If you say, okay, this is going to be my title, I want to write about this, and then maybe do an outline, that really helps me when I do an outline. And then I come back to the outline and then I flesh it out even more. So you can really take your time to do a blog if you want. And you can post when you want, when you feel like it, whether it's once a month, once every week, every 2 weeks, once a quarter. And even and if you feel like that's overwhelming, you can even start out with trying to build an audience on social media, and then at least having a landing page where you can collect emails, and then maybe just do a quarterly newsletter, which is something quarterly and not so frequent and maybe not as overwhelming.
Uh-oh. You just gave me hope. like like there is light at the end of the tunnel, because I guess when I think about blogging, I always think about like, hey, you got to put something out, got to put this out, got to put this out. Just like social media, you got to put something. At least I try and put some out at least 4 or 5 times a week. So
Yeah, my goal is to try to do something once every other week. So twice a month, I want to do a blog post, and I'm late, but that's okay. So, I mean, I think as long as you're staying active on your social media, staying active somewhere, and you're working on it and you're building towards something, I mean, it's as you want to do it. It's not, when you have a blog, it's not really pressure to post every day and all the time. And it really depends on what you want to do with that blog. If you are relying on your website for affiliate links and monetization from that, then you really want to focus on posting regularly, maybe even once a week. Even food bloggers that create recipes may post several times a week. So it really depends on how you want to treat the blog.
okay. So I'm gonna um well, first of all, you gave a lot of tips far as planning, apps to use, taking pictures. Are there
Mhm.
any other tips you could give, like a fresh blogger out there that's wanting to start, pick some, try something new?
Yeah. I mean, my main thing is just start, like start where you are. Um, Everybody's first pictures are not good. So that just is what it is. I mean, my main thing is start where you are, start with what you have. Even if you want to eventually get a camera, it doesn't matter. Use your cell phone to start something. Even if you don't know what you want to post, just document your day and just post that. Even on stories, you can document things on stories, and a lot of people view stories, so that's a place to start. Even if you only want to post something once a week, you can do stories on Instagram and or Facebook, and then that could help you build an audience as well. Another thing is once you start, just be genuine, like be who you are, and that will help you build the audience that's right for you. That will help you build your community. Don't try to be like someone else, just come as yourself, and that will help you along the way. Another thing is that I didn't know, and maybe some people don't know, but there's a large blogging community. Even people that don't have websites, but just primarily post on Instagram, they also call themselves bloggers as well. So you can find a community on social media, whether it be Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, even YouTube. So when you find those people who are like-minded like you, just ask questions. Some people might not be receptive, but you will find people that will be receptive. So just be open enough to have the courage to ask questions of people. Like if anybody DMs me or asks questions, I don't mind helping anybody out at all. So I encourage people to ask questions and not think that one, they're bothering anybody, or don't think that you have a super question, just ask. Another thing is just try stuff. Like I said, if you don't know what works, just try it anyway, because you're not gonna know what works until you put something out. That will give you the data that you need to know what works for you. Like if you want to post desserts, post brunch, post happy hour, post alcohol, post travel, post vacation, post sites, post hair care, post whatever you want, and then see what people like, and then see what you like, and then figure out a good medium and figure out what works for you and your audience. And then my last thing would be is to just Google. I mean, if all else fails, just Google. You can find almost anything on Google, as well as YouTube. And so if you don't feel like asking questions, if you're too scared to ask questions, if you haven't found anybody, and if you're just starting from scratch, there's always Google and YouTube.
Whew, that is deep. That is deep, but it was good. It's all good stuff. Like, it's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
So where can we find you, and what you got going on these days?
Okay, so I think I have the same thing going on as everybody else. I'm home. Um, so I'm home, but because I love to work with small businesses, right now I've had several people reach out to me, and I'm also reaching out to restaurants in the area, and not just in the area, because honestly, my audience is kind of all over the US. I have a large audience in Asia as well, so I have an audience kind of all over. So any businesses, small businesses, any restaurants that want to send me any promotions, their flyers, anything for me to share with my audience on social media, I'm doing that right now. I've had several businesses reach out, and I've shared their flyers on social media just to make people aware of the fact that, one, they're still open. And then two, what their status is, what kind of service they're offering, whether it's to go or whether you can dine in or on the patio or outside. Also to let people know if they have delivery, if they're offering in-house delivery, which people should do first and not go to delivery apps first. But also if they're on delivery apps, I'm letting people know that as well. And then if you're local to the DC area, I've also gone in and picked up food from restaurants and done some photography for them as well, to do some social media marketing. So I'm doing that for restaurants. If anybody reaches out to me, I'm happy to do it to help out. And also just check out my blog. I have a couple recent posts that are really timely right now. I have one about just ways to help restaurants during during the pandemic. a lot of resources for people if they need resources. There were and are some restaurants who are giving free meals to kids who aren't in school. So I have a list of those on my blog also. And I also have a post about, if you don't have one yet, where to find a mask. Most businesses aren't letting people inside without some kind of face covering. So I also have a post about where you can buy masks online, and even some people who are making masks local to the DC area. So I have that list on my blog as well.
Well, thank you so much, Takera. I really appreciate you. Of course, I enjoy your blog and your post, and you and Dwight. Well, I didn't even tell the story of how we met.
How we met.
So Takera came up, and it was like a bunch of paparazzi following her. I was like, well, who are you? Who are you? And of course, she says that she's a food blogger. And then I got her autograph. And then she got some oysters. And, we've been just friends ever since. I still got that.
It was something like that.
I still got the autograph hanging up on the wall. Flights and foods.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, no doubt. But no, I thank you for all the support you and Dwight give me. You guys come out to a lot of events. You're always promoting, the events that I have. I really appreciate it. And I wanted just to, it was hard getting her on this podcast, good people. I'm just keeping it real. I know she's busy and, busy signing autographs all the time and, catering to that Asian fan club, but hey, we got the little guy on here finally,
Yes,
so thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
No doubt. Well, stay being safe. And of course, if you need anything from me, and I'll let you know when this goes out so you can put it out to your people.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. Be safe, okay?
Thank you. You too.
All right. Let's see if I can get off of here. How about that? Okay. Woo. All right. I did this before. Okay. All right. This is going to be a boom. Okay. All right, good people. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Oyster Ninja Podcast. Takera with Flights and Foods, they do a great job just pushing out the good words. And go and support them, support her blog, and of course, support the Oyster Ninja Podcast. And, we're on YouTube. If you're listening to this in your car, you can find the video of this on YouTube. And I hope you guys are staying safe out there. And until the next time, I'll shuck you later, maybe. I don't know. I got to find a closing. I don't know. But y'all be safe. Peace.